Check. We have a stream.
Yay.
Okay. And let's get started. This is the Techno Buffet podcast, episode number 616, recorded Thursday, January 26th, 2023. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Dum-dum-dum.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Techno Buffet podcast.
Exciting.
You don't think it's exciting?
116 episodes, man. That's crazy.
617. Remember, we started with 0.
Yep.
Don't want to forget that 0th episode. It was
Zero.
legendary. By now, at least. Anyway, it's been another week. I'm not as perky as I could otherwise be. Last week and through the weekend, I felt like I had a whole sinus thing, and now it's sort of migrated down into my chest. So, a little. But I saw my doctor out of an abundance of caution. He said that I don't have anything too bad.
Don't you love it when the doctor says that?
Well, I thought I had bronchitis. He said, no, you don't have that. His theory is it's my usual sinus problems just leaking. But still doesn't feel wonderful. He gave me something for it, but it's not perfect.
Are there massive side effects? Are you growing a third pinky?
No, he said that if it doesn't get better next week, he'll talk about antibiotics.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, some doctors, you tell them that you're not feeling well, they'll just give you antibiotics, even if they don't think you have something.
That's not good.
That's how you get antibiotic-resistant strains of things.
Yep.
But my doctor's a little more cautious.
Cool.
So we'll see. But I don't normally see him. It's been a while since I've seen him as a last-minute thing. But anyway, so it's been affecting my ability to be productive. But there was one major productivity thing that happened on Tuesday that I didn't quite expect.
You got a boss?
Oh no, that would make sense.
Are your boss?
What?
You got someone to accept and acknowledge that they are your boss?
No, that would be nice though. My labor problems aside, I decided to upgrade my desktop, the one that I use for parts of this show and use throughout the week. So I did a
Mm-hmm.
little research in terms of stats. Let's see, I have it here somewhere. I wrote it down just for this occasion. So I have two computers that are running in this room. I have a server and I have a desktop. The server is my old desktop. So
Right.
a week ago, when we last talked, my server had a. I'm just getting the exact specs here. Had a, and still does since I haven't done anything with it yet, an i5 4670K, which is a 2013 processor. So it's a 9-year-old processor that has a CPU mark of 5539.
That doesn't sound like a lot.
I don't know what you probably buy, you know, a lot newer. So my desktop, as of last week, was an i5 7500, which was released in 2016 and had a CPU mark of 6037. So I decided it was time to do a little upgrading. So I decided to replace the desktop with a new processor that had a CPU mark of 8240. So that's an AMD Ryzen 7 processor. Been a while since I've done an AMD.
Just looking up the
What, your processor?
yeah, the CPU mark for my processor.
Which processor is it?
It's a 3970 Threadripper. It is a average CPU mark of 63,000.
See?
Well, I mean, it's got 64. Well, it's got 32 cores. 64.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I figure you have to drive all those screens.
Yep.
But I went up from 6037 to 8240. That's not bad for a desktop.
Nope.
But I'm not trying to drive all those screens. And that means that my former desktop becomes my server, which is a different project, and my former server does something else.
Is
It
it going to be a server backup?
Probably it'll go upstate.
Okay.
I don't need a backup here. But it's sort of the circle of computers. It's always the oldest thing that gets thrown out, and everything else gets recycled. But it surprises some people that because I talk about technology all the time, that I do not have the latest and greatest.
They are also surprised.
Why? What would having a what do you have, a 64 core, what was it,
32 core.
32 core computer do for me?
No,
What I have is plenty fast.
I find mine fairly useful.
Yeah, but you're driving all those screens. I'm driving two screens.
Well, it actually ends up being less about the screens than it is. I work on stuff that is CPU intensive
Yeah,
and parallelizes and
I don't with my main computer, but it made things a bit snappier, and again, that helps a little with the recording of this show. But
well,
remember, I have sort of a distribution of things here, and I don't necessarily do what other people might do during the course of the day that would need more. I'm not a heavy gamer. I don't do a lot of heavy processing. I do some transcoding, but not always in a rush on that. But the other nice thing is I switched to a much smaller PC, so in theory, I could unplug the PC and move it around with me when I go to different places. Because everywhere I've been going lately, I have not been using my laptop as a laptop. I've been hooking it into a dock that I've already set up there. So might as well just have my entire computer system small enough to transport in a book bag.
sure, I'll buy that.
Yeah, nice little one made by B-Link. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
I have not.
They seem to be popular for the little small PCs, so it's sort of Nook size.
Ah,
Yeah, well, the server isn't, and the server never will be, because the server needs to hold some drives, but the desktop doesn't really need to. I just put in an NVMe SSD. I pulled it out of the other one and said, okay, this will be easy. I'll just swap the thing in, but I had a whole EFI problem, so I ended up reinstalling the operating system. Things happen.
they do.
So basically, not only new computer, a completely new OS install.
But it's a Linux, so that took like what, 12 minutes?
It took more time trying to figure out if I could fix the EFI BIOS load thing, and just deciding no, I couldn't. And then backing up the old data files and then wiping the drive. The actual configuration is pretty fast because I've done it so many times. Anyway,
Cool.
so some things happened this week.
What?
Yeah, stuff. Things.
All right, cool. I got to hear about stuffs.
I thought you liked stuff.
I do like stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I got to hear about stuff.
So apparently the DOJ wants to break up Google on the ad side.
Well, that's just evil.
Sorry, one of my windows is being spammed. I better just get that.
Spammed with ads. I bet it's Google.
No, one of that was the ADSB tracker forum. Somebody showed up and was just essentially spamming them about some something, and that was making the noise, so I just terminated the client.
Oh,
You know me and my plane tracking. Anyway, so apparently, not only the DOJ, but 8 states are suing Google over its domination of the online advertising market. And they're thinking of breaking them up.
interesting.
Be interesting to see what happens. They're saying that they acquire competitors, force adoption of Google tools, distort auction competition, and manipulate auctions.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
and
a to
some,
using other providers. I mean, just saying.
yeah, again, we'll see what happens.
Although
Well,
this is extremely interesting, and I want to know how this goes. So thank you for bringing this up.
yeah, well, the simple truth is, whenever the DOJ does any sort of monopoly discussion, they haven't broken anybody up in a long time.
They didn't even break up Microsoft.
Well, they talked about it, but I think more likely is this is a way of saying you have to show us that you can change your behavior and let other people into the market without trying to destroy them.
Just okay, cool.
Well, no, sometimes you start a fight knowing that you will not win it because you want to gain concessions. I'm not saying I agree with that philosophy, but I'm saying sometimes there are people who do that.
Okay. We all know how I feel about the government involvement and stuff.
Well, you know how I feel in sort of the abstract, which is I believe that there are reasons why the government may be the only entity who could get certain things done. However, they're bad at it. So
They
even when I think that they might be the right people to do things, they're always the wrong people to do it. Anyway, if you use the Google Clock app, apparently they've updated their timer UI and test buttons for ending alarms. So they have a whole new layout for that. And some, if you look at the screenshots, they're very nice.
that's just crazy talk.
I like clock apps. They are useful when you want to know what time it is and set alarms.
Okay.
Home Assistant put out a blog post. They've introduced PT or other AI systems to answer questions in the Home Assistant community forums.
Interesting.
And their reason for this is that the answers are often wrong,
Yep.
but look
I,
good.
I have seen developers try and use that to help them generate code, and oftentimes more time is spent trying to fix the code that was generated than it would have taken to just write it yourself.
Well, I've gotten into this argument in a non-code related forum, not for ChatGPT, but sort of in the idea of uh, using pre-generated things instead of writing your own from scratch. So, in my opinion, ChatGPT, any of these things that generate something, that may be a fine starting point, but it should not be an ending point. So it may be that you have something, generate an answer, and then you look at that answer and you make it your own by customizing it, editing it, or possibly rejecting it. But this whole idea, I'm going to use ChatGPT to answer questions, and I don't even know if the answer is right, and I'm going to post it as if it was my own. That's what Home Assistant is trying to stop.
And I think that makes sense because if you knew, then you probably wouldn't need to. The I understand using chat the AIs to get a launching board or try and do something creative, but gee whiz, man.
Yeah. So if you look at some of the comments on the post, it's intelligently extrapolating to create non-existent services in Home Assistant.
Wow, that's crazy.
It made up services based on what it assumed Home Assistant could do. So again, not a bad tool, but it's sort of the why is it remotely acceptable to have an AI write answers for you to publish in a community forum at the very least where people are asking for help and you don't know if they're correct. Anyway, that's the same reason why some schools have said we don't approve of this because we're still back to it may look good. Is it right?
Hmm.
Anyway, moving along, here's one that I was looking at and thought people might be interested in from the people over at Android Police. The top 8 Google Photos alternatives, and they put
Ooh,
in the subtitle because you deserve better than your stock app. So I was looking at this because I do like a nice gallery app. I've been using Gallery Go,
yeah.
which is the Google stripped down gallery app that addresses the fact that they sort of got rid of the gallery app and replaced it with photos. But there are some interesting ones here. F-Stop Gallery, One Gallery, Simple Gallery, Pictures with a K,
Ooh, that's clever.
yeah, Photo Map Gallery. But again, sometimes you want a local gallery app. And I use local gallery apps. So why not?
Yeah.
Moving along, if you are an Android user like Jerry used to be,
Like I used to be. Like I are no more.
I'm sorry, I made it a point to only mention it every so often, not every week. But Android could be picking up a new API for approximating Bluetooth device location. So part of this is probably due to their proposal about adding in their own tag tracking, but also for devices. Figuring out how far your watch is from your phone could be useful.
Yes.
So they are,
Just changes.
yeah, so they're essentially working on a Bluetooth distance measurement API. So I look forward to seeing how developers make that useful.
That's kind of would be interesting.
Yep. And this next one is relevant to you
Ooh.
because Apple has released a phone with only an eSIM in it. And this is an editorial saying the world isn't ready for eSIM only phones.
It's not. Why
It's an
not?
editorial, it's not an article.
Okay, but why is it not?
Well, let's see. They did a poll, which is not
Oh,
scientific, by the way.
yep, yep. And
Uh,
let's also not forget that in general, people are change averse.
yeah. So 46% said that they preferred physical SIMs, 32% said they preferred eSIMs, and 21% said eventually, but it's too soon.
And of those people who want physical sims, could they explain why?
Well, there are reasons why a physical device is sort of harder to take advantage of than a digital one. For example, if you're concerned about somebody compromising your account, if it is 100% digital, it's much easier. On the other hand, SIM swapping is a thing, so the advantages of having your credentials on a physical piece of hardware are mitigated by the fact that the provider could just swap your phone number to another physical piece of hardware. So for me, it's I wouldn't necessarily complain about eSIMs being the only thing, but I would need to have the ability to have more than one in there.
I think that's kind of the next step. Once you get to non-physical sims, then it becomes. I mean, if you've got the chunk of code in there to have one eSIM, why not two or three or four? They
Well,
could all be active at the same time.
well, I'm just thinking of the scenario where I'd want to put a second SIM in my phone. Let's say that I was a international traveler,
Ooh.
and I went to let me think of a place. I went to Belgium, and I wanted a local SIM. Sometimes it is easier to go to one of those prepaid SIM card machines that they have in some airports. Just buy a SIM and stick it in your phone. eSIM, suddenly now you have to deal with who are you, etc. So it can
Good.
destroy sort of the anonymity of just buying a SIM prepaid and using it. But
Good. Point that.
now,
That
for
makes
anonymity, I'm not sure if I really care if a cell phone provider in Belgium knows who I am, but I remember how much trouble I had when I tried to get a SIM in Italy in 2011, and they wanted all this information, and I was saying, I'm buying it for a week. It's prepaid. Why do you need to know? Why do you need to see my passport? But anyway, so I don't think it'll be as convenient on the travel side for eSIMs. I haven't looked into it that much.
I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I haven't. I also haven't done any international travel in the last 3 years. I'm sure eventually I'll go somewhere. Not Belgium, but somewhere. By the way, for the record, I'm not against Belgium. I just can't see that being at the top of my list. Is it at the top of your list?
Belgium? No. Greece is at the top of my list.
Okay. I know people have gone to Greece.
After the summer, you'll know another one.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Just today, I was talking to somebody who just came back from Ecuador.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had to admit to them that I have not been further south than Texas.
Okay. I think that's okay.
No, I didn't say it wasn't okay. I have never been to Central or South America. Just never gotten there. Anyway, maybe I'll get there someday. I know you've been to Central and South America.
Yes.
So, as I said, I just haven't gone there. Moving along, since I am continually trying to find reasons to use Meet, not that I am using it, but I seem to be paying for it. Here's how to use Google Meet live sharing to co-watch a video or play games in a meeting. Woohoo.
Play games.
Yes.
Funny. I mean, you might. I think it's funny. I laughed. It's funny.
Yep. Skipping slightly down, and I'll come back to the interim because there is another story here about Meet that's interesting. There's new built-in interoperability between Meet and Zoom. So you'll be able to join Zoom meetings from Google Meet hardware devices and join Google Meet meetings from Zoom rooms.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have some places that want to do Google Meet, but I prefer Zoom by a lot. And it would be cool if I could join there. Ooh, that's hot.
Yeah, and I think it's for the hardware devices. I'm not sure. It was a little unclear whether or not you could do it if you don't have one of their hardware devices.
Oh,
But I can't imagine that there's a reason why you couldn't without the hardware device other than they decided not to allow it.
I'll give it a shot.
Well, looking on the Zoom side, because I was looking on the Google side, Zoom says that you can join Google Meet meetings by adding the Zoom room to the Google Meet invitation or by entering the Meet ID to join.
I'm going to try entering the Meet ID to join.
So you sign into the Zoom web portal, click Room Management and Zooms, use the room location hierarchy to enable this setting, toggle the support interoperability for Zoom rooms, and then click the box to display a Google Meet Join button on the room controller or touch display. So it still seems like it's a little confusing because it implies that you may or may not be able to do it unless you have the hardware. But it sounds like you could do it without the hardware. But it says prerequisite is a Zoom Rooms license. So I think that's the hardware. So anyway,
I'll let you know next week.
maybe I'll find a use for that meeting eventually. Anyway, moving back up slightly, there was another clock app story I forgot to mention. You can now record your own alarm sounds.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's a new feature in the app that allows you to record your alarm and timer sides from within the app. So you can record a some sort of file for it to play. Sometimes it's the simple things.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Who
Uh,
wouldn't want to be woken up with the sound of me going whoop whoop whoop? Time to get up. Whoop.
does
Just
anybody
make
want
make sure
does anybody want that? Because I'm sure Jerry will be happy to record a sound file for you.
or you edit it out of this. All I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yep. Moving on, if you are a Twitter user, apparently Twitter retroactively changed their developer agreement to ban third-party clients.
I
And
don't know that that's true, or did they?
okay, well, I'm going to quote from the article because Kevin Purdy wrote it, and while certainly people in the media can be wrong, I've read his stuff over the years. He doesn't seem like one to not do his research. So apparently, they claim that all these developers violated a long-standing policy, and as Kevin Purdy notes, long-standing can apparently mean later this week. So they banned, and then the change happened 2 days after a vague tweet about enforcing long-standing API rules without pointing at any. So the way that they're saying that this is a new thing is they're doing a developer agreement comparison between the effective dates of October 10th, 2022 and January 19th, 2023, where a new line was added that says restricts the ability of developers to use or access licensed materials to create or attempt to create a substitute or similar service or product to the Twitter applications.
Interesting.
So we're back to uh, the only thing that's really annoying about it, more so than they're banning third party clients, which remember for years has been an issue on, where the
Yep.
company, discouraged them, encouraged them again, discouraged them again, is now they're claiming that this is a long-standing policy. And one developer quoted, "I guess I didn't realize long-standing actually means a couple of hours." So basically, not good.
We were unhappy about this many, many years ago
Yeah.
when, and so
No, many, many years ago, they didn't ban the apps. They just discouraged them. Now they've retroactively banned them.
it's got to be
But,
rough.
yeah,
Build a business model on somebody else's business.
yeah. If you build a house on sand, what's going to happen? Anyway, it's not like I'm not sympathetic. I know that they knew what was coming, but it's still not a nice way to go about it. Especially when you know these developers did have paying customers that they're going to have to deal with.
Yep.
But nobody said that Elon Musk is known for being a nice guy. In fact, I think he's known for being not a nice guy. Regardless of what you may or may not think of him, I don't think he has a reputation as a humanitarian. Excuse me. So, Home Assistant is coming for your car.
Well, that's cool.
So this is Android Auto, where they essentially have started. Google has started accepting IoT apps into the Play Store for Android Auto. So the team added features where essentially you could run a very simple Home Assistant app that will allow you to go and, let's say, open and close your garage door.
Dude.
I don't know. If somebody says something, I'll certainly mention it.
That's so cool.
Well, not only that, they've added a new sensor that will tell Home Assistant if you're connected to an Android Auto head unit. And there's an attribute for the type of connection.
Hmm.
See, I just like the comment. May I be the first to say Yahoo? So, as I said, I haven't tried to use this to open my garage, which is definitely integrated into my Home Assistant instance, but I did see that the icon was there. So, Yahoo, right?
This is cool.
I thought so.
I agree.
So there we are with that. We're in alignment. We're calibrated. Let's see here. I also quoted the Ars Technica story that preceded the other story, but I accidentally put them out of order, which was earlier. Twitter says third-party apps broke long-standing API rules but won't name what they are. And then subsequently, they named what they are, but they weren't there when they named them. And in one final story for this week, the pioneering Apple Lisa has gone open source. Their version 3.1 of Lisa's OS from 1984, and this is Pascal code, is now available under a non-commercial license. So if you want to run the Lisa operating system on whatever computer you have that still runs Pascal, you can do that now.
Cool.
Yeah, the license permits using, compiling, and doing other matters with the code for non-commercial academic research, educational teaching, and personal study purposes only.
I approve. I
So,
like it.
so did you do any interesting projects this week?
I broke my one of my automatic vacuum or one of my robot vacs.
How'd you break it?
Um, it ran over some poop. So when we were cleaning it, apparently spraying down an electrical device, not a good idea.
I would agree with that.
So we got another one. Only this time we got one with a camera, and we also got it. Also, you know, it did have a automatically emptied itself. Things that it had vacuumed up, but that still left us mopping the floor every now and then. So I got one that has the camera to avoid the poop, and also the base has a water bucket and a dirty water bucket. And so it'll mop for a while, come back, and it has a little scrub brush that it goes over the mop with to get the dirt off the mop. Then it'll refill it with clean water, then go out and mop some more. And anyway, so I got that integrated into um, Home Assistant. And while I was doing that, I found out that some improvements have been made to the Xiaomi
Xiaomi.
Xiaomi vacuum integration. Specifically, there's a new card for showing the map, which is a lot better. Previously, if you wanted to tell your vacuum to go to a room or whatever, you basically had to sit there and experiment with room codes until you could figure out which room, what the integers were that went with the rooms that you were trying to ID. Well, now that's a whole lot easier because it can interrogate the,
Interrogate?
well, kind of.
Okay, I'm just.
It means it's. I'm not saying it waterboards it. I'm saying it asks.
Yeah, I'm just. Interrogate was an interesting choice of terms.
To me, interrogate is a neutral term.
Okay. I said it was an interesting term. I didn't say.
Okay. And it will identify which rooms are where, and show you on the map. It'll show you the room name, and you can look in the config to find out what the number is, which is a whole lot easier and faster. And the, you know, the default map extractor and the vacuum cards for Xiaomi, they're not real good with saying what it's doing. It's either, cleaning or returning to dock or charging. That's all it does. But the new one will also tell you if it is, returning to the dock to clean the brush, if it is emptying the dock or emptying the basket, no, emptying the
Bin,
bin. We'll
bin.
go with that bin. And it looks nicer, and it shows you all the details about how long's left on the different consumables. So check it out. It's gotten better.
Oh, I'm not sure if I told you how I ended up with a new robot vacuum.
No, you didn't.
When I was in Florida, my parents decided to upgrade their robot vacuum from a just a vacuum to one that had a mopping function.
Right.
So I took their old one home in my suitcase.
Ah, cool.
What's interesting is people in front of me, bottle of water, trip, airport search, whereas I have a entire robot vacuum with a lithium battery in it and nobody said anything. I'm wondering if that means the scanners have gotten better or the people are less curious about random large electronic devices in your suitcase.
Really? But
What?
they open it up and they see it's a vacuum cleaner and then go about their day, right?
No, I've been searched for odder things at the airport. I once got searched in Detroit because I had some suspicious Mission carb wraps. I was once searched in Fort Lauderdale because I had a suspicious protein bar.
Okay. That's interesting.
Uh, I have mixed feelings about the TSA. I don't know if they, for all the money we've spent on them since 9/11, I don't know if they've made us more secure than pre 9/11 airport security.
I'm pretty sure you could easily make the argument that they do not.
Yeah,
They
well,
have. So, which raises a question. If you said that your feelings about the TSA are mixed, and that's a negative comment, that implies that you have positive feelings as well.
well, I think that airport security is a necessary thing. So it is positive that there is airport security, but the decision to have the screening moved over from private security over to a government agency that has made the budget for that significantly larger, did it produce the effect that was necessary? I would have rather, back in 2001, I would have rather they said from now on, all of the organizations that do screening have to be licensed and reviewed by the government so that they're all standardized, not necessarily that the government should be taking over the job. By the way, there are airports that still use private security. Can you name an airport in the U.S. that does not have TSA security?
Uh, no, but we do have some pretty small airports around. I mean, they don't have commercial flights going into them, so I would not expect TSA.
Not exactly. There are certain requirements for you to be allowed to not staff your airport with TSA. One of the biggest ones I could think of is SFO, where
Uh,
they are actually employees of a third party handler, but they're not actually TSA. So there aren't that many airports who actually don't use the TSA.
there should be more.
Well, again, the airport screening allows for screeners to conduct duties with TSA oversight, which is what I think should have happened everywhere instead of. So I think the TSA should have been a regulatory organization that just ensured that airports were following consistent standards. And the need for that is because if you're flying between states, so you couldn't have it handled at the state level. So if
Uh,
the standards in if somebody, let's say in Florida, if their standards were lax and they allowed anybody with a gun on the plane, and suddenly that gun arrived in, let's say, a stricter state, let's say Ohio, then that could be a problem. So that's interstate, which is usually where the federal system comes into play. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. Oh, by the way, in
Mm-hmm.
regards to your request to get us into the Spotify system,
Yes.
I was looking at the list of things that the WordPress plugin that for podcasts that I do will offer a little button for.
Yep.
So I can also put us into Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio. I don't even know what this one is. Geo7, Podchaser, Ghana, Podcast Index, Deezer. What's Deezer?
I don't know many of these.
Ngami. Somebody must be using them if they put an option to put in your Ngami link. I just have a pod catching app. I don't understand why I need to involve Amazon. Anyway, I'll give it a shot. It's I don't think there's any downside that I can think of. And if I find one, I won't do it.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's just essentially I'm a big believer in uh, as few barriers to listening to the two of us ramble as possible.
Huh.
So wherever you want to hear us, we're going to try to be there. Right, Jerry?
That's right.
Yeah. We did get feedback from Jim, the guy who gave us feedback previously on the topic of possibly doing video shorts, which I
Yeah.
mentioned is the only thing with video I thought made sense for us.
Mm-hmm.
He agrees that converting to a video format does not make sense for the content we're doing, but he would watch if we did like some short few minute videos about something that we might be working on.
Okay.
So clips. So I'm willing to consider that if I think of a good idea for a clip.
Cool.
Maybe, Jerry, you will film all of the many monitors you have as a video short. You know, a tour of Jerry's office.
I don't know if that would be interesting, but I'm not
I
averse
don't
to it.
know. I'm brainstorming here.
Ah,
So I assume we will be back next week. And much to my embarrassment, after we agreed to try moving the show to 8 o'clock, I forgot that we'd moved the show to 8 o'clock and was waiting for 9. So I don't want to make that mistake again. So I'm reminding everybody that if you decide to tune in for watching us actually record the show, which we live stream the recording of the show on YouTube, you are welcome to do so at 8 p.m. next week, which will, of course, also be February 2nd, which is what, Jerry?
uh, February 2nd is Thursday.
I was going to go with, it's always, we record on Thursdays usually.
Yes.
I was going to go with it's Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah, it is.
And you know what I do on Groundhog Day.
Watch Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
Cool.
So I may do that.
But we're still going to record.
Why wouldn't I record? Are you saying that I would cancel the podcast in order to watch a old movie? I
Hey
thought I
man,
might.
traditions are traditions.
Yeah, but you could watch the old movie before or after the recording. Or, if the day is repeating, I could watch the movie and do the recording on separate days and it would still be the same day. No?
That would be funny.
Well, just remember, if the day is repeating, make sure you tell me.
Yes, sir.
Is the day repeating?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
But I also can't discount it. Maybe it is.
Well, yeah, but all those, I was discussing this yesterday. If nobody knows the day is repeating, then it's a really boring story. There has to be at least one person who knows the day is repeating and starts causing trouble. Otherwise, your entire story is just people doing the same thing over and over again. And how interesting is that unless there's a fly in the ointment? So until next week,
Until next week.
goodbye, Jerry.
Bye, folks.
Stopped.
That was cool.
Well, things have been working out.